Hello, everyone. One, two, three. One, two, three. Everybody hears me. That's great. Okay. Creative cheats, cheap, dirty, and fun. This sounds really inappropriate when I say it out loud. I didn't intend it. Today, I'm going to be talking mostly about making your own games from the artistic standpoint and how you could make it easier. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Arvydas Brazdeikis. I'm a 2D artist and UI designer working currently in GameInsight. I've been in the industry for around 5-ish years. I had a chance to work for various applications and services for AAA franchises like Dragon Age, Mass Effect, some stuff for League of Legends. I was also involved in some independent, smaller productions like Movie Studio Stories, which is a movie development sim, and the upcoming horror adventure, The Long Reach. First of all, I would like to ask you people a question. Who of you likes to play games? Okay, yeah, well, that's good enough. How many of you people would like to develop your own games? Make your own games? Okay, yeah, that's a reasonable amount. Okay, and so one of the easiest ways to get into the game industry is to do stuff. Do stuff for anything, like mods, user-developed, developer-approved content, do your own prototypes, all sorts of things. But one of the easiest and the most direct ways that you can test your skills as a game developer is game jams. What are game jams, for those of you who don't know? These are these challenges or events that let you gather with your friends or like a random group of people to create your game in a limited time with limited resources to the specific theme or on a specific topic. And so there are many different game jam events. There are Global Game Jam, Ludden Dare, Game Boy Jam. Here in Vilnius, you have Hacker Games, which are like startups and games and all these sort of things combined. And it's easier to find anything you want online or live. Gather with your friends and start to make games on your own. What I do like about game jams is that this is the closest thing you'll get to real game development, because you have a small team, limited time, and strict themes. Because usually in game development, you're not like creating the game of your dreams. You usually have strict themes, like you have a producer, manager, a project needs that you have to adhere to. You have limited time because you have deadlines, you have like releases, schedules and stuff, and small team because there are never enough people, never enough resources for anything. Some may say that this is a bad thing. I would say that it has its positives because small team, it encourages teamwork, encourages communication between you and your friends, encourages role division, like some people are responsible for the art, some for the code, some for the management. Limited time teaches you to prioritize things, to see what's important for your project, and what can be amiss. And strict themes make you creative because, well, you need to, think about stuff, invent stuff in this limited frame. And so if you want to be a game developer and you're asking yourself, well, I cannot code, I cannot draw, what should I do? The answer is you should learn. And as an artist, I would say that for many artists, there are a lot of things to learn, a lot of things to study, including anatomy, composition, color theory, lighting, and what's beautiful about video games is that games are like this intersection of various different mediums, various different arts, various different spheres, and you have to bring this knowledge to the development of your own game if you want to be good at it. So yeah, it's tough. You have to know a lot of things. You have to be good at a lot of things. But There are a lot of tricks that you can learn to make your life easier in the game development. And so there are these various different scary words like art direction, deadline, style, animation. And a lot of people are like, well, I need to learn all this. I don't know, I'm not really good at it. And so I don't know what to do. I don't have a plan. I don't have any sort of guideline or roadmap what to do when I want to start my own game. And so many people are scared by these things, even like experienced artists, experienced designers. And so here starts like the technical part of my talk, when I would like to break down some of the things that you could do to make your life easier when you're starting your own game. For example, animation. Animation is like a big, scary monster for many people in the industry, many 2D artists too, because it seems it's something very complicated, especially like 2D animation, like hand-drawn animation. And so here are the things that you can do to make your life easier. Rotoscoping. Rotoscoping is the technique used like in very old animation by Disney, for example. It's a technique that allows you to capture live footage of a person doing some stuff, and then the animators go and paint over this footage to, to make the cartoon resemble this complex human-like animation in the final form. It looks something like this when you paint over the existing movements in animation. It was used in game development many years ago in Prince of Persia. By the way, this game pioneered rotoscoping in the game development. It's used in the movie industry too. If you've seen the movie Scanner Darkly, it was used primarily with rotoscoping techniques, and this was really complex production. It took a long time, but it can be something that's done very quickly. And I decided to prepare an example for this presentation. For example, let's take live footage, of a dancing guy. Let's break into keyframes, like what are the key positions, let's make a skeleton out of it. He repeats this movement left and right, and so I just mirrored these frames and started to paint over them. And so in the end, adding some branding, here you go. You have a game-ready asset that you can insert into the game already, and this can be used for attacks or movement even for anything, essentially. If you are mindful about the size of your game, because this takes a lot of frames, this takes a lot of different separate pictures, because each frame is a separate picture and it takes space. If you want to be really resourceful and really mindful about the space in your game, then there are techniques of 2D rigging. These are done in software like Spine, Spriter 2D, Live 2D. And what this does, you take your image, you break it down into different separate parts, and then you're putting it on top of the skeleton, which then moves and quirks and does stuff. This isn't very natural in the end, a lot less natural than hand-drawn animation, but this sort of stuff, this sort of software gains a lot of popularity lately. You could see it in a lot of mobile games now, a lot of amateur games, and so this is one of the ways to do stuff. You can also always use live footage. Everybody has smartphones, everybody has a camera in it. You can go out with your friends, take footage of your friends, and then just, crop it out and insert them in the game as characters. This is a very archaic technique. Nobody really uses this now, but this is very cheap in terms of production. And if you have a great game design idea, and if you want to illustrate it quickly, this is one of the ways to do it. For example, like this. Yeah, this is Oleg. He's sitting right there. Yeah. Yeah, one of the ways to make your life easier is to remember that your animation has to be limited. You're not creating a cartoon per se. You're making something to convey your idea efficiently. And so these are snaps from Hanna-Barbera cartoons done in the 60s and 70s, and they were very efficient about their animation. They had a lot of looping motions, a lot of really restricted motions, and this philosophy of limited animation, it went, it had its revival in 2000s with the invention of Flash, and it continues to this day. So what if you don't want to create hand-drawn animation? You cannot draw, but you want to add some dynamic to your game, to your concept. And so this can be done on simple scaling with making the characters, the items, everything in your game stretch and be like squishy and be physical, be really like tangible. The secret is to make everything extreme, make it stretch, make it squish, make it change its form. And so you can use it for various different purposes on various different assets. And it's really one of the key things to remember in animation is to go with extremes, is to make everything, a little bit sillier than it had to be in real life, and it'll be recognized better by the audience. Okay, next I'm gonna talk about general art direction, just a couple of words. One of the things to remember is to keep it simple. Keep it simple for the prototype especially. Like the earliest stages of development will always be consistent of squares and circles and really, really primitive stuff. But if you're going one step further, especially if you're taking part in Game Jam, you have to deliver a product, more or less finished product. And so take a cue, again, these are Hanna-Barbera cartoons, take a cue for some past works, for some past techniques. Try to find what you can replicate in order to, to fit your project. You can go all minimalistic. This is a game called N++. It's a really hardcore platformer. What this does, it utilizes very stark palette. It catches your eye. It is almost completely based on color theory. So like the guys, they went through the palettes. They said, okay, this matches with this, and now this is a level. And so you could do the same essentially for your own project. Be mindful about it. Also, yeah, this is a game developed by GameInsight, and I would like to say that whatever art direction you're trying to convey in your project, be mindful of what will be coming next. And I'm talking about like marketing material or like scaling to various different devices or various different boards. What if you're thinking about Twitch integration? What if you're thinking about, I don't know, diverging into spin-offs? And so early in development, when you're choosing your art direction, it's important to ask yourself questions like, do I have characters that people might like? Do I have like things that I personally enjoy that I would like to convey to other people? Does it look good on paper? And so on and so forth. 3D stuff. Like, okay, I'm a 2D artist personally, and so talking about 3D stuff usually is like not my expertise, but many 2D artists, they seem to be kind of afraid. They want to go into 3D, but they don't know where to start. Yeah? They don't know what to do firstly. And one of the great pieces of software I discovered like a couple of years ago is called Crocodile 3D. It's like purely for 2D artists, because what it does is what you can see here. you have a 2D image over here. It's divided into squares, grid, essentially. You take the square from this grid and you map it onto the 3D space. And so it's really easy to create 3D with your 2D images because, like, if you know how 3D works, or if you don't, many people think it's like really backwards because you come from the colorless shapes and then go into something really reasonable, and then you texture it, then it takes color and you know, some ideas. Here it's like the natural way for a 2D artist. You paint a 2D image and then you map it onto the 3D space. Some of the pieces of work I've personally done with this tool is really great in terms of creating this simplistic but catchy images. It can also be done in the full production. Here on the right, you see the finished image. And here on the left, what I did, I painted, it'll loop, just a moment. Okay, I painted this atlas. I mapped it onto the 3D space. I didn't have an idea of what I'll be doing, but then I choose the camera angle and then started to overpaint it. You can create backgrounds with this stuff. If you're doing 2D games, you can create whatever, essentially. This key art, for example, this can really help you into the full production if you decide to go on with your project after the game jam. Also, game-ready assets. Here you go. These are very simple, very primitive, exported to Blender, a couple of frames of animation. Here you go. You have a game-ready asset for your 3D game if you want to make a shooter quickly. These were done like in a couple of hours, mostly. And in the environment, when you have very limited time, this is really helpful in terms of delivering content to your game efficiently in order to wow people, in order to convey your idea. There's also an alternative way to do 3D simply. This is called voxels. And what voxels are, these are 3D pixels. So this is essentially pixel art in 3D with depth and lighting and complexity and rendering techniques. There's there's a tool, free tool called Magic of Voxel, which you can use freely, absolutely. It works like essentially like Lego, yeah, or Minecraft. You have bricks of different colors that you put together in a shape that you want, and then you can apply various different properties to these bricks, like make them of glass, make them matte, or anything. And yeah, here are a couple of examples, just quick works done with it. You can create various 3D assets with this too, and this is really, really helpful and fast in terms of delivering content. If you remember Crossy Road, like a couple years ago, was really huge. It was mostly built on voxels, and what these do, these deliver a striking look, really recognizable look. They're not really good for everything, but they mostly do for indie developers. And so the key of creating interesting content in the end is combining all those techniques. And one of my favorite examples is 2D and 3D. It's like if you want to make a modern, contemporary 3D game, but you're not really good with 3D animation and stuff, you can do 2D images and put it inside 3D environment. And yeah, it worked for Doom in 1993. It was like a pioneer of this stuff. And it works now. For example, this is a project from the former environment artist from Blizzard. He does this in his spare time. Here you go, Gebhardt. If you don't want to make a shooter, you can make something experimental and specific. This is a game called Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor. What this does is creates this really minimalistic, really stark retro look with pixel art sprites, 2D images in a 3D world. and also Knights and Bikes. Yeah, this is like the opposite of the Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor, because it's very, non like traditional indie. It doesn't have any pixel art, but it has lots of techniques used in, for example, Hanna-Barbera cartoons, as you've seen before. If you take a look, the characters in this game, they're animated with spine, with skeletal animations, and so this is like another example of what you could do, combining all of this previous knowledge and doing something great. These guys, for example, they launched a successful Kickstarter last year, so they'll be releasing, I hope, this year also. And so, yeah, I'm kind of early, but here you go. I hope that it was interesting for you. Be inspired.